Good morning. My name is Lisa Rachel Kessler, and I am broadcasting this Facebook Live from a home, actually, um, but for the Ecumenical Buddhist Society of Little Rock. Um, this morning, I've been thinking about happiness, and in Buddhism, we talk a lot about suffering and about happiness. Happiness kind of being free from suffering in a way. But those are words that can be kind of difficult for us to grasp, I think. What is happiness? And so, of course, those are words that weren't exactly spoken by the Buddha because, of course, all of the teachings that we have from the Buddha were translated into multiple languages before they were actually translated into English. So, with that said, sometimes instead of thinking of suffering, we can think in terms of something a little bit, I guess, easier to deal with in a way, and that is discomfort or dis-ease. Um, So we may not be exactly suffering in the sense that we think of being in great physical pain or maybe grieving over a loved one, but just the lack of feeling at ease, feeling comfortable. And of course, we're talking more of sort of a mental comfort as opposed to a physical comfort. And then when we look at the word happiness, well, what is happiness? Are you happy? Boy, that's tough. And one of the things I thought of is if you just ask a person, are you happy? And they had the only possible answers were yes or no. A lot of people would probably say, yes, I'm happy. If there wasn't any yes I'm happy but or I'm a little bit happy, but it was either yes I'm happy or no I'm happy. I think a lot of people would say yes, they're happy. um, but if you put it a little bit different way in terms of, do you feel any discomfort? And a lot of people would say, yeah, I feel discomfort. I feel a lack of satisfaction. So I like to think of happiness sometimes not so much as happiness in our Western language, but more in terms of, do I feel satisfied? And many of us, if we were given the question, are you satisfied? Yes or no, no in between, we might be more likely to say, no, I don't feel satisfied. So what does that really mean for us? I mean, why do we feel that way? I was talking with a friend yesterday at lunch about this podcast called 10% Happier. It's Dan Harris, I believe, is the name of the person that does that podcast. And I've listened to a little of it, and it is good. I mean, I enjoyed listening to it, and I think it can be helpful. But what it came up in my mind is, why do we need to be 10% happier? Or is it even, are we 10% more satisfied? And that reminds me of our definitions of what happiness is. And so, if you think in terms of like whether your everyday needs are met, are you warm, are you physically comfortable, most of us, certainly not everyone, but most of us would probably say, well, yes, I have a nice warm bed to sleep in. I have a roof over my head. I have plenty of food. Our basic needs are being met. But for some reason, in the Western world, I think in particular, we have this sense of not being completely satisfied. So, where does that come from? Well, one theory, I guess, is that perhaps we have too many choices. So many years ago, I'm going to say this was probably at least 10 or 20 years ago. Um, I read this article, and it was put in like in what I thought was really simple terms. So the author of this article was saying that when he was much younger, so I'm guessing maybe around 1970-ish, because I remember that time pretty well in my life. Um, when he was much younger and he wanted to buy a new pair of blue jeans. And he basically had three choices. You know, there were Levi's, there were Lee's, and there were Wrangler. And they all fit a little bit different. You could try on those three and just decide which one you felt like fit you better. And that he felt very satisfied with his choice. Well, nowadays, of course, we've got hundreds or probably thousands of choices out there. So we say, I don't think I'm going to buy a new pair of jeans. Well, even within each of those categories, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of choices. And then you've got all the other designer jeans, and you've got the ones with elastic. And I mean, we have so many choices when we're thinking about buying a pair of jeans. And let's just say you try on 100 pair of jeans, and 80 of those 100 you like. You'd probably be pretty satisfied with them. And maybe 20 of those 100 you really love. So you narrow it down to about 20 pair. But you have such a hard time deciding, well, what's really different about those 20 pairs? You know, is there something a little bit different that you like a little bit more than the others? Or maybe one day you like this feature better and the next day you like this other feature better. So what happens is that we're less satisfied sometimes with the more choices that we have because we second guess ourselves. So if you only have three choices, you still might second guess yourself, but you're probably going to be less likely to. But if you have 20 really great choices and any of those 20 would make you happy, it's harder to choose. It's harder to feel true satisfaction. So my point being that I really feel like that we've created this world where because we have more choices, we're more likely to feel dissatisfied with the choice you make. Sometimes I look back at my life and I think, well, instead of being a social worker, I should have done this or I should have done that. You know, maybe this job would have paid more money or this job would have allowed me to travel more. And it creates a sense of dissatisfaction. And of course, when we're looking at changing the past, well, we're not able to do that. And we don't know what it really would have been like, so we tend to idealize those choices. But what we know is that at that particular point in our life, we made the best choice we knew to make based on the information we had. And if we can think of life that way, which I try to, but it's not always easy, think about life that way, then we realize that we did make the right choice. And we can be completely satisfied with the choice we made. So perhaps doing this will give us more satisfaction and as a result, increase our happiness. Now, certainly using an example of blue jeans or what job you pick, well, those are maybe, we don't want to say that's the ultimate thing that brings us happiness because, as our teachers frequently tell us, true happiness comes from within, not from the things we purchase or the decisions we make. So we want to consider that also. Where does our happiness come from? A pair of jeans doesn't make us happy. Even another person cannot make us happy. True happiness comes from within. So let's just meditate on that for a while. So let's consider our posture. Perhaps you're sitting on cushions on the floor. Perhaps you're sitting in a chair. Whichever choice you make there, be satisfied with that choice. Don't feel like you should be sitting on the floor if that's not comfortable. Perhaps you even feel more comfort laying on the floor during your meditation, of course, if you're able to stay awake. So I notice my posture, my back is strong, and my front is soft. The abdomen is relaxed. The heart is open. Scanning my body, noticing where the relaxation is, and maybe notice where the tension is too. Just allowing the body to relax as much as possible. And once you get to that point, being satisfied that your body is relaxed. As we begin to focus on our breath, merely breathing in and breathing out, allowing the breath in and noticing that without much effort on your part, the breath will leave the body when it's time, and the new breath, the next breath, will simply enter. As we just breathe in and out. And as thoughts rise up, we'll notice if we don't attach emotion to them, they fall away. Thoughts can cycle in and out, just like our breath comes in and then leaves our body. And as thoughts arise, we simply acknowledge them and we just return our attention to the breath. And as I continue sitting here in meditation, bringing my attention inward, I notice what that feels like. And I connect with the happiness and the satisfaction that is inside of me. Not the happiness or satisfaction I think I get from external objects, but what it is that grows inside of me that brings me joy. And perhaps something that brings me joy or brings you joy may be a sense of community, a sense of well-being, a sense of compassion for others. Perhaps even a sense that I'm doing the best I can. Knowing that even though all my physical needs are met, there are still challenges in my life. And as I face those challenges, I just remind myself I'm putting out my best effort and I'm doing the best I can. And there's no reason to be disappointed in that. And as we end our time together, I'd like to dedicate this time to the joy and happiness that we all have inside of us, and the hope that you can reflect within and find that joy.